In this WrestleTalk news, Stephanie McMahon is taking a leave of absence from WWE and Nick Khan is taking over. Could WWE freeze Naomi and Sasha Banks' contracts? And is Rock versus Roman Reigns just fantasy, as one WWE star puts it? Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
In quite shocking out-of-the-blue news, Stephanie McMahon yesterday announced that she would be taking a leave of absence from WWE, effective essentially immediately. She took to Twitter to break the news, saying, "As of tomorrow, I am taking a leave of absence from the majority of my responsibilities at WWE. WWE is a lifelong legacy for me, and I look forward to returning to the company that I love after taking this time to focus on my family." So Shane's gone, Stephanie's gone. That is 2 Horcruxes, guys. We've just got to find 5 more. One of them is probably a black vest. PW Insider followed up by saying that amongst their sources, the word making the rounds is that McMahon will definitely be returning to the company at some point, but no timetable for that has been laid out yet, though it is expected that someone else will be handling her current duties until she returns. Now, in her role as Chief Brand Officer, McMahon works to advance the company's brand reputation amongst advertisers, media, business partners, and investors, oversees its community relations and pop culture strategies, and has obviously become one of its leading ambassadors, and obviously invented women's wrestling. Well done, Steph. Now, according to Brandon Thurston of WrestleTalk, that someone taking over from all of that is Nick Khan. They tweeted, "Nick Khan will be taking over most of Stephanie McMahon's duties in her absence, according to multiple people at WWE. Select business partners have already been informed." Oh goody, that's like almost beating Voldemort and somehow making Darth Vader more powerful. Steph's decision to step away from the company for a while came as quite the shock on Twitter, but as with most things in WWE, it was also a shock for a lot of the people who are working there currently. Brandon Thurston said that WWE employees I've heard from found out about Stephanie's leave of absence when she tweeted it, with PW Insider noting that many people in WWE were shocked and taken aback by the news and said that only her most inner circle were aware of the decision. But obviously that didn't stop WWE stars of now, then, and recently released from showing her love on social media. Alexa Bliss tweeted, "We love you," at Steph McMahon. Johnny Gargano said, "You're the best, Steph. Enjoy the time with your family." And Dana Brooke thanked her for being a role model for all women around the world and also for inventing women. Fightful added to the surprise nature of the announcements that rumblings had been heard that suggested McMahon was less involved in WWE as of late. One of the reps they contacted said that Steph was still part of the WWE family, and others shot down rumors that she had been pushed out of the company completely. Push it? No, we're not pushing. No. This is like Vader's going around breaking the Horcruxes now. While McMahon is still part of the WWE family, which is a funny way to say that she's named after the boss, this moment right now is probably the weakest the McMahon family's grasp on the company has been, the entire extended McMahon family. Shane's out, Triple H's influence over the on-screen product has been completely disrupted, Stephanie's now taking time away. It is all very Succession, only Logan Roy, Vince McMahon, is left standing. Now, to get some further scoops on the Stephanie situation, David Bixenspan turned to the dark side. He went on LinkedIn. I mean, at least they've still got 1 user in 2022. 2 actually, because he noticed that Stephanie had updated her LinkedIn profile to remove some of the references to WWE. He tweeted, "From the could mean nothing, could mean something file. Though she's left up the WWE references in her bio and her background image, Stephanie McMahon's LinkedIn page no longer includes her WWE work history, just her education history and volunteer work history." When it asked if he was sure it had that info in before, he said he had used it to check timing on her different job titles within the company, so he was pretty sure that it had those references beforehand. So obviously, this could be nothing. It is LinkedIn, guys. It is not that deep. Maybe it's a glitch. Maybe someone in Stephanie's team accidentally deleted it. But it is also LinkedIn, and I haven't updated mine in like 7 years. And if I did suddenly log in to delete a bunch of my work history from the one thing that documents my work history, it might raise a few eyebrows. I mean, we're going to have to wait to see what happens between Stephanie and WWE and whether the company gives a timeline on a return anytime soon. So just, I don't know, keep your eyes peeled and your ears, whatever ears do, open. Sticking with WWE, Stephanie is not the only one walking out of it this week. I mean, she's probably the only one who got the company's blessing to do so, because as you're surely You definitely know this by now. Sasha Banks and Naomi reportedly walked out of Monday's WWE Raw taping after supposedly becoming frustrated with their booking and the aimless direction of the women's tag team division overall. Thank you, Stephanie, for inventing it. While conflicting word has come down the grapevine about Banks leading the charge on the walkout, her having this meeting with Vince McMahon, Naomi just being an innocent pawn in all of the games, or Naomi using it to leverage on a new contract that's coming up, it's all just a mess of he said, she said. So Mr. He Said, She Said himself, Dave Meltzer, updated on Wrestling Observer Radio to say what he thinks WWE's response will likely be, claiming that he doesn't think that the company would fire Banks or Naomi over the incident because obviously they don't want either star to go to AEW, which means that they are much more likely to freeze Sasha and Naomi's contracts while they refuse to perform. Vader busted out the carbonite again. I mean, there's a lot of Star Trek references in this episode, a lot of Star Trek. And this sort of weird contract purgatory that WWE just likes to keep people in, I mean, it's kind of gross, because if people just want to go, let them go. And if they want to stay, make them staying worthwhile. It's not hard. Why would you want people to work for you that don't want to be there? Now, obviously, as with the news of this type, people take sides. A lot have sided with Banks and Naomi for standing up for themselves, while others have sided with the company, calling it diva behavior to walk out in general. Now, Mickie James had a more reasoned take when she appeared on Busted Open Radio to talk about it. She said that this wouldn't stop other companies working with Sasha and Naomi, as they can see the value in them as stars and merchandise movers with a clear love and passion for the business. Adding, that's probably more about what this is, unpacking it all. If they were pouring their love into something and feeling like it wasn't valued, that's very frustrating. We can all understand being frustrated at times. I'm sure we've all had our gripes. You think it's the power of social media, but WWE is the one that pulled the trigger on letting the cat out of the bag. People are only hearing that one side of it. She closed by saying, that's another reason why I applaud them for standing up for themselves. It is a big statement, and it's unfortunate that they felt the need to get to that level, and it's unfortunate that you don't hear people standing up for themselves, and it gets to that point that it gets to. In news that echoes what Mickie James was just talking about, AEW star Toni Storm popped up on the AEW Unrestricted podcast to talk about her start in the company and touched on some of her final moments in WWE. She said that after leaving the E, she was suffering from incredible burnout and considered quitting wrestling altogether. She said there was moments like, at first, definitely like, oh, this is shockingly terrible, I'm going to leave forever, this is me, done. Like, it didn't last long. I quit, left, sat on it for a while, you get that wrestling itch. I really thought I was dead. I remember I was done. And perhaps some of that burnout comes from pure exasperation from some of the angles pitched to her by WWE, including the pie in the face moment between herself and Charlotte Flair, which Storm said actually turned out better than the original pitch. She said the original idea was like, I was called up and asked if I was comfortable having my shirt ripped off or something. They wanted to do this whole angle where they wanted to rip my shirt off to be embarrassed in my underwear, I guess. And when you're asked if you're comfortable to do that, and literally people are being fired every single week, it's like, well, yeah, I guess I'm comfortable with that. Then a lot of people have fought to not have that happen, which is just bleak and dark and exploitative of the vulnerable position that these independent contractors are in with this company. That looming threat of not having a job leaves people agreeing to stuff that they don't want to do, and ultimately that they're not comfortable with because they don't have basic protections, basic workers' rights. It is madness. And exactly what Mickie James was just talking about. Now, while everything else in WWE is shifting uncontrollably in one roiling mass of constant turmoil, the one thing standing stock still is Roman Reigns as Universal Champion, the undisputed one no less, standing stoic like a rock against the tides of the sea of change, aside from the whole new schedule thing. But that wouldn't have let me say stoic like a rock against the sea of change. Like a rock. Because we all know that the plan, floating in the ether that we've all been banging on about for years now, is that WWE's had Roman hold on to the gold for nigh on 2 years because they want a match with The Rock at WrestleMania. Rock and rock, you see what I did there? It's circular writing. The thinking being that Dwayne Johnson's Hollywood schedule and insurance generally is making that difficult to book, because an injury suffered in the ring has a huge knock-on effect for shooting and the costs involved in that, and a lot of contracts say that he can't do the wrestling because of that whole thing. Now, Sportskeeda's Kevin Kellum sat down with a man close to one of the participants in this particular dream match, the special counsel to the tribal chief Paul Heyman, who called the entire thing a masturbatory fantasy. He said, we can speculate all we want about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stepping into the ring with Roman Reigns. It's masturbatory fantasies until there's a piece of paper in front of us with Dwayne Johnson's signature on it, then I know it's real. And until then, it's just fantasy. He then swerved into a big promo on The Rock saying it's a fantasy of Dwayne Johnson to step into the ring with the greatest of all time, Roman Reigns. And until he puts his name on a contract, it's just his fantasy. I mean, for something that is not happening, I'm not sure he's talking about it a lot. He's wanking about it a lot too, apparently. Before I go, you might remember that I lost Wrestle League absolutely ages ago at the start of the year. Yeah, I forgot about it too for a while. As all of the losers before me though, I did eventually do my music video punishment, a cover of John Cena's entrance theme, Basic Thugonomics, which you can watch right now over on PFK. There is a link in the description below, so head on over there, leave a comment, and let me know what you think. I wear a vest and everything. For a bit.
Let's talk Star Wars, because Kathleen Kennedy did an interview with Vanity Fair recently. Well, Vanity Fair did like a big write-up on Kathleen Kennedy, and she is the head of Lucasfilm, and therefore a lot of questions about Star Wars.
She's the Kevin Feige of Star Wars movie producing.
Exactly, yeah. And I would say that